Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about time management and basically what you can do to better handle your schedule and the situations that you're coming up against. Typically, if you can move in as a planned, structured type situation, you'll be able to navigate whatever's coming your way a little easier. And so there's tons of different ways to look at that. What I found here and what's going to be used as a thumbnail in the video is actually some great suggestions around time management and some different matrix versus management styles to handle these things. Two of the best books on time management that we've talked about on the channel were Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy and First Things First by Stephen R. Covey. Those two books go into not only the benefits of time management, but what can be reduced by doing those things appropriately, and some of the things they suggest are mentioned in the piece that's going to be the thumbnail. One of the things that I always like to say is I've been carrying one of these since mid to early 90s. It works very well for me. I write down the top 3 to 4 items that I want to take care of tomorrow by the end of the day today. By doing that in the morning, I start on those items. And so once I get those items done, I have my hands on several different things daily, and I'm working on several different businesses. So having those things written down and being able to address those things, one, it timestamps and dates when I worked on the item, but it also lets me put first things first and do things in a way that makes logical sense. So that book, one funny story, I built a plant out in East Texas, roughly $60-70 million project. And when I got done with that, I ran it for the first 6 years of its operation. And one day during that period, the lines and pipes froze. It freezes occasionally in East Texas, and it froze. And my office was locked. I was not there. I was out of town on business. And one of our teammates actually broke into my office. And on my desk, the reason they did it was because for some reason in Texas, they put the water and pipes above offices, etc. So basically a pipe had burst and it was raining in my office is what was happening. And my book was on the desk, and so was my computer. And we're talking about this exact book, actually, right, with my planner in it and those notes and things that I write daily. And the teammate actually grabbed my book off of my desk and just left the laptop there because the teammate knew what was important to me and what carried more weight. So I thought that was kind of humorous. It kind of goes to show that if you do things a certain way, people will understand how important your systems are to you. And that teammate understood greatly how much that book meant to me and the notes that I put in it daily and everything else. Because I can get it on a laptop, right? I mean, you just put new stuff on that. But I thought that was humorous. Also, I never understood why in a plant that costs tens of millions of dollars, why on earth they put the piping and the water above your offices where your people will be working and reside. It never made any sense to me. But that's one story about the importance of your process. Once you do that and sustain it, you will have sustained results coming from it. In the sales business, you know, when you're in sales, you don't want to miss an appointment. You want to be on an appointment on time perfectly every single time. And if someone says something in a meeting and you write down some notes that you need to say, things that you have to do, you can put that directly in this book so you can handle that and get that done in a timely manner. There are lots of responses around, well, I use something that's in my email. I use a calendar that's in my Gmail. I use all these things. That's great. And yes, with watches and Apple and all this stuff, you can see that regularly 24/7. This book, all I got to do is walk up, take a look at it, and walk away. I can see everything on the day's agenda. I don't have to go and scroll through softwares and do all this stuff. So keeping it simple does make sense. Remember that KISS principle. Keep it simple, silly, right? That's the process that I'm talking about here. Anything you can do to move things off of your plate or sustain things in a way that is going to make things easier for you, that's what you should do. So in this thumbnail that we're looking at here, take a picture of that in your phone. Think about how you would use that. This is an ultra productive cheat sheet. This is by Dr. Christian Pingeson from he's got his site down here, ultraproductive.com. And I do think he mentions some great things. He talks about the Eisenhower Matrix by Dwight D. Eisenhower. Basically, it classifies tasks into 4 quadrants, and based on how it falls in the quadrant, tells you what you do with it. If it's urgent and important, you do that right away. If it's not urgent and important, you schedule that to do it as soon as you can. If it's important but not urgent, you can delegate that to others. One, they have to be able to grow and fail forward, but also if they have the ability to do what you've hired them to do, you should let them do that and get out of the way, so you get those things delegated out to your team. And if it's not urgent and if it's not important, you eliminate it. You get it off your book. That's not for you, right? So being rising up through business, being an owner, being an entrepreneur, doing those things, you have to focus on what's important, on the right things. If you're always focusing on the urgent things, you will never be profitable. There's always things that are urgent. And what happens is when you're focused on urgency above importance of the matter, then what you're going to do is everything is then going to become urgent, because people realize that's how they get your attention, is they make something urgent. So I think that 4-part is a great way to look at these. The next is Eat That Frog. That's about the book over here. And also it's a little poem by Mark Twain. Do your most important, hardest work first thing in the morning, and you will win the day. That's a fact. Do the hardest thing, and the thing you look at that you look least at or you like the least, do that first. By doing that first, you'll be productive and be able to get the rest of your day. Use it to do hard and important tasks. And basically that way you can engage in deep work. We'll talk about deep work in just a second. The next piece is the Pomodoro technique. Focus fully for 25 minutes. Take a 5-minute break and repeat this 4 times. And then finally take a longer break. Use this to complete hard and urgent tasks. That's a great suggestion. The longer you bang your head against a wall, the less productive you get. So what you'll do is you'll take a job that you had basically set for 30 to 40 minutes, take you 2 and 3 hours, and you lose productivity the rest of the day. Break it up into these things. Focus fully for 25 minutes, then break away and take a break, take a walk, go get a glass of water, another cup of coffee. By doing these things, you reset your mind, you reset your creativity. You may have a conversation that may give you an idea that you didn't have before. So do that, and you'll see an uptick in productivity, because that reset in itself, it gives you rest, it gives you reprieve from the tasks that you have at hand, so you can be recharged and then come back out and attack the task more appropriately. And then the last suggestion on this thumbnail is time boxing, which I think, call blocks, time blocks, we've been calling different things this, but that's what it is. It's time blocking. You block out a specific period of time for a specific amount of work, a specific piece of work, and you do that uninterrupted. Uninterrupted is the key word there. People wear themselves out with emails, with phones. They're constantly and able to be reached. Stop letting everything interrupt what you're doing. When you have time blocks set off, cut everything else off. Don't look at emails, don't look at text, don't look at Facebook, don't look at all these different things. Separate yourself from what else is out there that can distract you from the purpose of your work. So you'll see on the thumbnail, it gives you some ideas of how to do that. 9 to 10, they say deep work. That's what we talked about earlier, where you take specific time blocks to handle a specific problem. The next 10 to 11 is email. You'd be amazed on how many people, the majority of their day is spent navigating from their email, and their email becomes their body of work. That shouldn't be it. Remember, ultimately, email is just a communication point, right? Get through it. Move things through. If you've read it once and you don't have to read it again, file it away in a proper folder or delete it. You don't have to have 7,000 emails in your system. I'll tell you this, when I go to companies and try to help out with their organizational structure, and I try to see what kind of productivity limitations they have, one of the first things I do is I ask the key players to show me their inbox. I have 4 different emails, and if you look at them, none of them have more than 6 emails sitting in the primary queue on the inbox. And I'll tell you, it's because I work through them. And when I work through it, when I read it once, I move it to the proper folder. I respond to it before I move it. I move it to the proper folder and I move on. And then ultimately, I consolidate those things and keep the last conversation in one. And that limits the amount of volume and the amount of junk. One, it keeps the computer, less full, but ultimately it creates less of distraction. If people know that they can impact you and get in touch with you instantly via text or via email, you've just messed up. Because then when you don't reach back out, they're going to go, well, what's going on? Why aren't you? Don't be that responsive. Have a planned attack and address it accordingly. Going on 10 minutes here, so we're going to wrap this video in just a few minutes. But basically, if you look at the thumbnail, it talks about 9 to 10 is deep work, 10 to 11 is email, 11 to 12 is meetings, 12 to 1 is lunch, 1 to 3 is meetings, 3 to 4 is email, and 4 to 5 is deep work again. So you have the day broken down specifically. because of creativity, you may see that you're more impactful at certain things at different times of the day. So try that out while you're figuring out your routine. There's a book that we'll go through, is by Daniel Pink, that we'll talk about. And it talks about your own rhythm, how you work, what times of the day are most productive for you. At some point we'll go through that, because that is a real thing. You want to make sure you're doing these things in the most productive time, most productive way. So hopefully you started your year off right. Here is a video on time management with a little cheat sheet here in the thumbnail. I hope this is beneficial to you. Once again, these two books that I mentioned earlier are exceptional resources when it comes to coming to time management and doing those things. And just so you know, when a leadership position is what you're considering, time management ultimately is going to be what decides whether or not you're successful or not. And the team that you build around you is going to help decide that. And one of those quadrants around delegate and eliminate, if you can eliminate bad work that people are doing and get out of their way, they'll feel more productive in their jobs as well. So these things actually impact other things than just your day. So think about that. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you like subjects like these, please subscribe. Please share the channel. We are trying to get these subscriptions up and keep this channel growing. I appreciate you watching. I'm Ben. Be good.